Still says it's posted. Okay, I think we're live now, and really excited that we have Mr. Bob Glass with us from Pan American Vet Labs, and of course Lil, my buddy. It's, I'm sure you have been the talk of the little rabbit communities around here lately, sir.
Well, it's sort of even taken me by storm. I mean, I knew this was something that might be popular, but it's we're getting a lot of telephone calls, and it's very exciting.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I didn't know. You know, we're an informal little group here, so we all just pop in with questions and comments. So hopefully that's okay with you.
Yes.
Great, great. And I don't know, Lil, do you want to start us off? Do you have any questions or comments?
I guess my first and most obvious question is, what is the minimum age that a rabbit can be given this vaccine?
Well, I don't think we really know the minimum age. I can tell you that in the study we did for USDA license, we used animals that were 4 to 5 pounds. And those were all New Zealand whites. So you're probably looking at 70 to 90-day-old animals. In my rabbitry, we are now vaccinating, giving the first vaccination to animals at around 5 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we've not seen any, we haven't been doing it long enough to be sure that it works, although I have every reason to believe that it will. But we have not seen any sort of negative side effects at that age.
Oh, okay.
Now, is the dosage is it like the same dosage for all rabbits, or is does it vary by weight? No,
it doesn't vary by weight. Because this is a vaccine and we're stimulating an immune response, the rule of thumb generally accepted is that every immune system is the same size. You're basically trying to stimulate a minimum number of immunologically active cells with the vaccine. And it's the same number of cells whether it's a rabbit, a chihuahua, or a horse.
I guess that makes sense. I hadn't really thought about that. They don't really dose my my other vaccinations, right?
Right. Yeah, they should be just a minimum amount that will stimulate the immune response.
Gotcha. Ah, okay. Well, I guess as you can imagine, everyone had a lot of questions, and everybody kind of had opinions on both sides of the fence, and there were a lot of people actually on the fence.
Yes.
They weren't sure. It's just really something definitely interesting, and a lot of folks are trying to get as much information as they can. So I really do appreciate you coming out here and hanging out with us this evening. I'm gonna. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No? Okay. I'm going to try to, I guess, ask a few of these questions until, and maybe Dr. Mino will be able to join us. I'm not sure if, what's going on with that, but I guess.
I'm not sure what time it is in Hawaii. I know it's.
I know, right?
Got to be, what, 3 or 4 hours earlier, probably.
Yes, I think, I forget the time change, but you're right. We might be dealing with a time frame thing, which is completely fine. He's a thoroughly prepared man.
Okay.
He's helping us out. So his first question here is, will this vaccine interfere with the current diagnosis for a pasteurella multocida? I forget how to.
Multocida.
Yes. There you go. Thank you.
Yes. This vaccine, if it works, will give you a positive test, the positive blood test for pasteurella. The whole idea of the vaccine is to stimulate the immune response, both a cellular response and an antibody response. Antibody is what you measure in the pasteurella blood test, and so yes, we expected to make the test turn positive.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. You know, my medical training is just non-existent. So and then also he said he asked, will there be a way to differentiate a true infection from a vaccine-induced antibody increase?
No.
No. Okay. Which I guess that kind of makes sense based on what you said earlier.
Right. I mean, there are some things you can do and that are done with some vaccines to indicate that the animal has received the vaccine. For example, in this vaccine, if we wanted to, we could put something like, you know, some odd protein that a rabbit would never come in contact with, like sea urchin. We could put sea urchin in there, and they would react to that and make an antibody. So you could sort of tag the animal, if you will, by that sea urchin antibody and say this one has received the vaccine. But you still couldn't tell if the pasteurella antibody present in the animal was due to vaccine or due to infection.
Okay. Okay. Good deal. So I saw a number of folks who were having this discussion about the vaccine and possibilities. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I guess what it means for herd management, I guess, as far as you know, whether you give the animals vaccines or you do not, or you know, the effect of going to a show, those types of things.
One of the, you know, there's a couple of big questions, and you know, and I can't say I have the answers to all the questions.
Right.
I've had some people who say that they have a reservation about using the vaccine because, in theory, by culling animals that become infected, you would think that you would develop a herd that have a natural resistance to pasteurella infection. But the fact of the matter is, we've been killing pasteurella infected rabbits for what, 100 years? And we don't see a resistant strain yet. Now, maybe someday there will be a resistant strain, and then the vaccine will be obsolete. But you know, for 100 years, you know, frankly, we've been knocking rabbits in the head, and sometimes they're our best rabbits, and it helps to stop the spread of the disease. In my mind, that's all it does. You know, if rabbits had the ability to make some sort of a mutation that would make them resistant to pasteurella, they would have done it on their own a long time ago. And so the idea that we're weakening rabbits by using a vaccine says that we ought to stop using, you know, measles vaccine in our kids, because it's essentially the same idea. So, you know, that's and that's something that I think is an important consideration and important to understand.
Right. Did you have a question, Lil? Or are you?
No, right now I'm getting ready to put I'm going to put the phone number for to place orders on the screen. Let's see if I can do that. Just a moment here.
Yes. Lil's so good with all this technology.
Sometimes I get lucky.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you do that, and I was going to ask him another question if you don't mind.
Sure.
We're not playing 20 questions tonight, or Bob, but that's really interesting. This I'm learning. So.
Okay.
He asked, "Is the vaccine recommended? Oh, is this vaccine recommended for a majority of populations of rabbits, or for high-risk areas or herds? And is this product recommended to be used throughout the rabbit's life?"
Yes, yes, yes. I think there are several distinct applications. In my barn, every rabbit, and I want what my goal is to have a population of animals that have a level of resistance to infection. Okay, and And the way you do that is by vaccinating them and stimulating that immune response. You know, and you have to realize that the immune response that the vaccine is going to stimulate is essentially the same as if an animal gets an infection over it. Okay, so that's basically what we're simulating is an infection, but we're using a dead bacteria instead of a live bacteria. Okay, and so we stimulate this level of immune resistance in the herd. Okay. The question about annual or follow-up, I think we feel pretty comfortable that around 6 months, between 6 months and a year, that antibody level is going to start to drop. So the animal is going to become susceptible to infection somewhere around a year later, after the initial injections. That's the reason we recommend the booster at that point, to keep that resistance level higher, high enough to do some good, basically.
Okay. Well, so once again, excuse my my ignorance, but so when you're saying, like, if you had a scenario where you vaccinated your rabbits and you did that a while annually, and then you decide to stop for some reason, you just don't vaccinate anymore. Does that cause a return to the original? I guess I don't know.
The original susceptibility?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Well, sort of. When you stimulate the immune response with the vaccine, any vaccine, your body develops what we call memory cells, memory lymphocytes. Those lymphocytes live, depending upon the disease, live within your body almost for the rest of your life. Very slowly over time, that population will decrease, but they're very long-lasting cells. Now, those cells, in and of themselves, don't fight disease, but they remember how to fight disease. And so when the disease shows up again, they're able to recruit and dispense large numbers of cells that now can fight the disease and have the capability to fight based on the memory cells.
Okay.
So when you vaccinate and then stop vaccinating, the current protection level goes down. The antibody becomes depleted. The certain types of immune active cells decrease in population to a very low level. So the animal now becomes susceptible to the disease. But if it's exposed, the memory cells stimulate a very fast response, much faster than the initial response that you get the first time that they would see the disease organism.
Okay. Okay. I was kind of thinking about that as I was hearing some conversations about people's decisions to vaccinate or not vaccinate, and I'm sure, as we all know, that rabbits sometimes exchange owners, or these types of things. You sell a rabbit, it goes off somewhere else, and I was just kind of curious, I guess what I asked you.
Yeah. Does it become a problem? And I don't think there's any downside to vaccinating, and then when you stop vaccinating, the animal doesn't have any negative side effects, and certainly doesn't become more susceptible than it was before you started vaccinating.
Right. So as long as you're still breeding for animals with a good immune system, you're still. That's
and in fact, you could take the argument about selective breeding for resistance. You could make the argument. I'm not saying that I would, but you could make the argument that using the vaccine will help you select animals that respond well to pasteurella confrontation or exposure, because those are the ones who are going to respond even better to the vaccine. So if you vaccinate, and if your whole herd is vaccinated, and then you have an animal that develops symptoms, you can say, okay, that one's really weak. Even with the vaccine, he didn't develop resistance. So that's definitely one you want to get rid of, in my mind.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes sense. Okay. Well, oh, I thought of another question. Rats. I don't remember it now. I'll remember it later.
We don't do rats. No.
I know.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah, Lou, go ahead.
How is the initial vaccination a single injection, or do you have to like follow the first injection with another 3 or 4 weeks later for the first time an animal has been vaccinated with this?
Yes, the initial vaccination is done, and then it's followed with a booster 30 days later.
Alrighty.
Okay, and then annually after that. Now, I will say this: in my barn, because I have one of the reasons this vaccine is here is because in my rabbit barn, I have a horrible pasteurella problem, or I did have. And so I use it every 6 months. Of course, I get it for free. Okay, so there's a couple of reasons. I have a bad problem, and it doesn't cost me to treat it. So I give it every 6 months, and we see no negative side effects, and I'm comfortable that we get an even higher level of immunity in the herd by doing that.
Okay, I have another question. Now, just because a breeder is using this vaccine, this doesn't mean they can go get sloppy with their management, right? I mean, they still have to watch their air quality.
Absolutely.
Because even if the rabbits don't get pasteurella, they could still end up with bordetella or something else.
Exactly. Exactly. This is not a panacea. Okay. This vaccine, I am very comfortable, will not eradicate pasteurella from the face of the earth. Okay. I'm very comfortable about that. I know that there are improvements, frankly, that we can make in this vaccine. We will learn how to make it even better over time. I think it's effective now. I mean, in our studies, it's effective. In my barn, it's effective. Whether it'll be effective in every barn and to what degree remains to be seen, and it's something we can only learn with time and as it's used in more places. But certainly, the cleanliness, the hygiene, all of those things need to be continued, because those things in the past have not cured the problem. This vaccine by itself will not cure the problem. Those two things together, I think, will significantly improve the problem.
Well, so many of us, we'll take some, quite frequently, we're taking our best stock to a show.
Right.
And then we may have the misfortune that our rabbits may come into contact with an infected animal on the show table.
Exactly.
And so, the way I see it is, the peace of mind from having this vaccine will be wonderful.
Yeah. Again, and I think that's a major consideration. In my barn, for the last 30 years, we do antibody production for human diagnostics test kits and for research toward diagnostic test kits. We never raised rabbits. Okay, so I got rabbits from everywhere. I got rabbits from 10 different barns. I got pasteurella from most of those barns. Okay, because I took, frankly, the rabbits that were not show quality, and sometimes they weren't show quality because they had pasteurella. And so I know that any rabbit can transport pasteurella with it and spread it, when it gets there. I would go sometimes months at a time without a sneezing rabbit in my barn. Then I'd get in a group of rabbits for a project, have a couple of symptomatic animals in there, and for 90, 120 days, it would spread through every rabbit in the barn. And well, sometimes not every rabbit, but enough that I felt like it was every rabbit. And you know, and that's really the basis for developing the vaccine. You know, when you get a rabbit on an antibody project, and I do this work for other people, and they pay me. Okay, so when that rabbit gets sick and it has to come off the project, either it's too sick to do the project, to collect blood samples, or it dies, you know, it's very expensive. Okay, and at one time I was losing about 5% of the rabbits in my barn every month, which is, I mean, when I've got a 300 rabbit barn, it turns into a problem. Okay, and that's really when I said there's got to be something that I can do. You know, I mean, I tried antibiotics. I didn't find any that would help, and you know, we tried, you know, disinfecting cages every day. It didn't help. We started using a precursor of this vaccine. It was actually a vaccine that's developed for sheep and goats, and it has a pasteurella as one of the components, and it helped. I mean, it significantly helped, and from there we developed this vaccine that is specific for rabbits and works much better.
So are they going to, I'm assuming that the studies will continue, that there will be, you know, more studies conducted?
Yes, we will continue to do studies. One of the big questions we have is the impact of using this vaccine, not as a vaccine, but as an immunotherapy to cure symptomatic, you know, sick animals. Huh. And you know, in my barn, again, I've seen sick animals that have responded very well to the treatment with this stuff. I don't know if it'll happen all the time. We have to do some studies to look at that question. But I think that's a very important question, is whether we can treat a sick rabbit and clear it up. Right.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that would probably need more studies. That sounds really interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I noticed a lot of people were worried about meat rabbits, that type of thing. Is there a withdrawal? Is it called a withdrawal period?
There is, on the label, USDA puts on there a 21-day withdrawal.
Okay.
So 21 days from the last injection. But I've been telling people, you know, if you're raising rabbits, when you wean them, you know that they're going to go to slaughter. I'm not sure that those are good candidates for the vaccine. You know, unless you have such a bad problem that you have rabbits that aren't making it to slaughter, or if they're severely stunted or something like that. But you know, I don't see, with the price of rabbits, I don't see investing $2, you know, into a rabbit with a vaccine when you're going to slaughter them when they're what?
Right.
70, 80 days old. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I like to sell vaccine to everybody who does that, but I just, in good faith, you know, I can't say that I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I wouldn't.
Point. Yeah, Dr. Mina was also asking, will it affect the meat quality?
No, it will not, and I say that based on the use of pasteurella vaccines in other species. It's used widely in cattle, sheep, goats, swine. And it doesn't have any impact on the quality of the meat there. So I don't expect it to here either. The other question you'd be concerned about is whether you have what we call it a injection site reaction with the vaccine, that could, you know, make an abscess or something like that in the meat. And we've never seen that. I couldn't say that it would never happen, but we've not seen that in all the rabbits that we've given these injections. And the fact that you give it subcutaneous instead of intramuscular makes it even less likely.
Oh yeah, good point. Okay. And then I guess, did you have something, Lil? I do have some more questions on here, but I don't want to.
No, go right ahead. I'm just so thrilled and excited about this vaccine.
Yeah, let's see. Well, I guess Dr. Mina asks, what's the likelihood of more pathogenic strains in the future?
Very possible. You know, I wish I could control that. But you know, one of the things that I think one of the beneficial things about this vaccine is that you know, the pasteurella organisms are in some way they're unique to each other. But if you look at the basic cell membranes, you know, the basic parts of the cells, a lot of it is the same from one strain to the next. So when you're injecting this into a rabbit and he's having an immune reaction to it and producing antibody, he may produce antibody to something, to a portion of the bacteria that is very unique to that particular strain. The majority of the antibody is going to recognize those parts that are common among strains. And so you're going to get, and you know, and if and I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm not saying this is the way the mechanisms work, but let's say, for example, if the basic, say, if 90% of the membrane of the pasteurella vaccines are the same, and you have an antibody that attacks the membrane and pokes a hole in it, basically. Well, if it pokes a hole in this strain, it should poke a hole in a strain that has similar membrane. Or if the membranes are very, you know, are consistent across several strains, that antibody should work in attacking several strains.
Gotcha.
So I know that one of the concerns is the number of different strains of the bacteria, and it is, there are many strains, but I think in most of the bacteria have what we call epitopes, which is portions or parts of the bacteria that the antibody can recognize that are the same. So we should get cross reactivity among the strains, and hopefully that's what we'll see.
Right. Okay.
Something just popped into my head that I was kind of curious about. Let's say a rabbit gets a scratch, and it could get an abscess in that scratch from pasteurella, multocida. Would the vaccine reduce? You know, could it reduce the chances of abscesses from pasteurella?
Good question, and I don't know the answer to it. We very seldom see abscesses in our rabbits, so I couldn't say that where we've used it, I've seen an impact. But you know, when you see 1 or 2 abscesses a year, it's hard to see an impact. I think, and I'm kind of going out on a limb here based on what I know, but if I'm not mistaken, the pasteurella strains that cause abscesses are generally not the same strains that cause respiratory disease.
Okay.
Okay, so now then, and the ones that the strain that we use causes respiratory disease. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's our biggest concern. Now, whether or not you get enough cross-reactivity from the antibody produced to the respiratory pasteurella to fight the skin infection pasteurella, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to think we do.
I know, right? Let's see. Efficacy of vaccine and duration of immunity. I think, is that what we were discussing earlier?
The duration of immunity, we talked about that it lasts about a year. That's the reason we do the annual booster.
Right.
Efficacy, in our, and I sent Dr. Mina sort of a summary of our USDA clinical trials. I asked him not to spread it too far because we're trying to write a paper, and we don't like you to put that information out there before you publish it. But you know, we asked 2 questions of the vaccine. We asked, 1, can you prevent death? And 2, can you minimize and shorten the duration of disease? Okay, of symptoms. Okay. And what we found is we set up an animal model where we could give a certain dose of the live pasteurella organism, and it would kill, on the average, 50% of the rabbits in less than 14 days. Okay. Then when we did the vaccine study, we took a group of unvaccinated animals and 2 groups of vaccinated animals, and we challenged them with that dose of bacteria that should kill half of them. Okay. In our control group, 6 out of 10 rabbits died within less than 14 days.
Wow.
The remaining 4 rabbits were extremely sick. I mean, they had snot, they had eyes were running, they lost weight, their lungs sounded like billows. I mean, they were crackly and they were what we call rails. So they were very, very sick rabbits. And in fact, at the end of the 14-day observation period, we put them down. In our 20 rabbits that were vaccinated, we saw 0 deaths. We didn't have a single rabbit die. We had we had a few rabbits that had a little transient reaction, and they had like very light chest noise. They had very, very small amount of nasal exudate for a period of 2 to 3 days, and I'm talking about you had to look close to see it. We had to hold the rabbits up to our ears to listen to the chest. But all of those rabbits that showed some symptoms were completely clear of symptoms by day 14. And what the symptoms that we saw were basically them reacting to the bacteria, to the vaccine. You know, like if you get, and flu's not a good example of this, but I'll use it. It's not a good example because it's a live virus, a modified virus. But you know, when you get the flu virus vaccine, you often feel cruddy for 2 or 3 days. Or if you get in foreign travels, we got yellow fever, we got rabies vaccine. I've had that a few times, and it makes you feel like crap. You know, it's not that you have the infection, but your body looks at, you stick this in, and your body says, "Oh my God, I've got rabies," you know, and it gets going, you know, and it's sort of the same thing. And you know, what causes the inflammation in the lungs of a rabbit that has a pasteurella infection is the surface of the bacteria has things that we call toxins. Okay, well, those toxins are still there in the killed vaccine, so it's going to cause some irritation. Okay, and which is good, because that irritation is the body responding to the vaccine, you know, mounting an immune response, which is useful to you later on. So I'm comfortable that the rabbits that we saw, the vaccinated rabbits that were a little off for 2 or 3 days, it was actually a good thing because it showed that they were really responding to the vaccine.
I had a question, and is it safe to give the vaccine to a pregnant doe?
We have given it to pregnant does without a problem. Now, we haven't done a lot of those. I did a group of about 8 2 weeks ago, and 2 of them have babies now, and they seem fine. I've not seen any sort of we've not seen an issue with it. But at the same time, we know that some rabbits, when they get the vaccine, feel a little cruddy for 2 or 3 days. Would I give it to, you know, a rabbit that was 2 or 3 weeks pregnant? No, I wouldn't normally. I would. What our plan is to give it at breeding. Okay, so then if you give it when, and the reason I want to give it then is because when those little ones are born, I want the mother to have lots of antibody to put in the colostrum. Okay, so if you boost her about breeding time, then, you know, she's at 30 days later, she's going to have a good antibody level.
Yeah.
So that's our plan, and we've done it with a few and not seen a problem. Now, I will say, just in the last few days, I saw a single paper working with an experimental pasteurella vaccine where they they think they may have observed that the pregnant does had a lower numbers of babies, but they weren't sure that that was a really valid observation or not. I mean, they had smaller numbers of babies, but they're not sure whether it was due to the vaccine or to some other issue. So I would have to say I don't think it will be an issue, and I certainly don't think it would be an issue if you're not giving vaccinations, you know, either when they're pregnant or just before they get pregnant. I think if the vaccines are, you know, away from breeding, I think you're for sure safe. And I'll have to see it in mind, because I think the benefit of the higher antibody levels with the colostrum make it worth seeing if there's an issue with the numbers of babies.
Right.
That makes sense.
Huh. I get. What would be some examples of misuse of the vaccine? Did you think any? Or I know. And what are some limits of this product?
Well, I think one potential misuse, and just because we don't know whether it's effective yet, would be using it and hoping to cure a rabbit that is symptomatic.
Okay.
I'm hopeful that that will work, but at this point, there's no way we can say yet that we know that it does. Okay.
Right.
I've given him to a few sick ones, and they got better. Maybe they would have gotten better without it. I don't know. But I have a level of concern that people are going to buy it and give it to sick rabbits and be disappointed if it doesn't cure them. Okay? And so I try to make it clear to everybody that we don't know whether it will cure a currently sick rabbit. Our goal is for them to not get sick.
Right. And since this is such a new thing, well, at least for us, you're right. There's a lot of ways that you can interpret uses for the vaccine.
Yeah. You know, I'll give you an example of abusing it. Let's say I've got a nice rabbit that somebody wants to buy, and a week before they come to pick it up, he breaks with snuffles. And I give him a shot of the vaccine, and it knocks his symptoms back, but he's not cured. Okay.
And then you send him to his new home.
That's right.
Anything.
Yeah. See, and I don't know. You know, maybe it cures them, but maybe it doesn't. And so, if you use it in that way with the intention of selling a sick rabbit that's just masked, then that would be abuse.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Yikes. But yeah, and I guess there's always risk when you're buying things, but
yeah.
See, what? A dog wants to get in on the conversation. Oh, good. So we answered, yeah, that he was asking also about the pregnant does and breeding stock, and he does say here strict culling of potentially diseased rabbits and animals with clinical signs and does that produced affected kits used to be a way of is a way of selecting animals for future breeding stock, and he's asking, will this practice change now that the vaccine is available? You know, how do you see it changing?
Well, you know, well, first of all, I think that history tells us clearly that killing the sick rabbit has not gotten rid of pasteurella. Okay, I mean, you may get rid of it out of your herd, but then you get rid of pasteurella out of your herd and bring in a sick rabbit, and it's like wildfire on dry grass. I mean, because they've got no immunity at all. So while I know that in the past culling, sick animals was really one of the only tools that we had, I really think that with the vaccine, at least what I've seen in my herd, is that you will control the animals, you control the spread of the disease, you limit the number of animals that are available for infection, And so I think you'll see a lot less culling. I also think what we talked about earlier is that if in the face of vaccination an animal gets sick, I think it's even more correct to cull it. Because what you're saying is, here's an animal we've tried to stimulate an immune response with the vaccine, and we didn't stimulate anything. That tells me that that animal has a defective immune system.
Right.
Okay? And that's a good one to, that's probably a good one to cull.
That's true, because it would make it, it seems like with the vaccine that it might make it even easier, you know, to identify those animals with a weaker immune system.
Exactly. Exactly.
What you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me. Well, oh, does the, I have another question. Does the vaccine have a shelf life? You know, if we order it, I know it has to be refrigerated, right?
Yes, it needs to be refrigerated. Shelf life is 2 years from the date of manufacturing. So the material that we have now expires in December of 2014.
Oh, okay.
And it is most likely, the way USDA does that is they start you with a 2-year expiration, shelf life. Okay? Well, at the end of 2 years, or sometime before the end of 2 years, we'll go back to USDA and say, look, this stuff is still good. We're going to do some testing to prove it to you, and then they will extend the dating on that. Typically, they'll extend it for another 2 years.
Oh, okay.
So I would be surprised if, and then after that, you can have a 4-year dating on future productions. So actually, I hope we sell it all before then, and I need to make some more, but and then last till 2014. But if it does, I mean, it's fairly routine to get the expiration date extended.
Okay. And now, I guess speaking of expiration dates and all that kind of good stuff, do you know if the vaccine will be available? Well, I guess right now it's, I guess, technically over the counter, right? It is. It is.
And when we went through USDA, that was one of the things that we, that we asked for, that we could sell directly to owners and not have to go through veterinarians.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. And then, so, do you have plans for things like feed stores, and I guess even making it available at the vet if people, you know, some people don't want to give CQ. I mean,
right. No, it certainly will be available to vets. Feed stores, I hadn't even thought about it. You know, I don't even. I guess I need to go talk to my buddy at the feed store and see if he wants some. You know, I just don't know.
New markets for you.
Yeah, that's a whole new question, and you know, and we're considering whether to go through distributors or not. And my goal is to make this something that people can buy easily and routinely online, and not have to have stuff of the markup. That, because, you know, frankly, we have other products that can only be purchased through your veterinarian.
Right.
I sell it to them for a price, and they double it.
Right.
Okay, which I understand. You know, they've got to pay for all that school and, you know, all that help and that building.
A lot of overhead to having one of those.
A lot of overhead. But, you know, if we can eliminate that overhead, then, you know, we can keep the prices what I think are reasonable.
You know, as rabbit folks, we're all for less markup. So. But okay, well, goodness, let's see. There were, you know, it's sad, all the questions I had in my head while I'm listening. You know, I'm like, oh no, now I can't think. Do you have one, Lil?
No, just listening to the conversation here has answered most of the questions I had. I guess. You know, some people will be curious to know if they can afford it. What does the vaccine cost, and is there a bulk discount for you know, a certain number of purchases?
Well, right now we have it available in a 20-dose vial and a 50-dose vial. The 20-dose vial is $20.
Oh, that's very reasonable.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant $50. No, I'm just playing.
Hey!
and the 50 dose vial is $40.
So it is, yeah. So you're looking at like a dollar rabbit.
About a dollar an injection. Yeah. About it, you know, and my thought is, you know, it's going to cost you $2 basically to get the first, you know, to get the 2 injections done now, and then it's going to cost you $1 a year after that. And I think, you know, the other day at the rabbit show, someone told me, said, I don't need that. I just, when they sneeze in my barn, they die. And I said, well, how many dollars worth of rabbits do you kill every year? She thought a minute. She said, I'll take a 50 dose vial. Because, you know, it's really, from an economical standpoint, assuming that it works well for everybody, I think it will be cost effective.
And you recommend a 20 gauge needle for the injection?
Yeah, you know, I've got to try it, and I would have tried it. I mean, I took 1,000 doses of vaccine to that show and sold out. I didn't bring any home with me. In fact, I didn't have enough. So I've got more coming from the factory, and I'll try it and see exactly what's the smallest needle you can use. But I think it'll probably work fine through a 25 gauge needle.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know that for sure yet, but I think it will.
We'll let you try that out then.
Okay.
Let's see. There were I'm thinking I had another question, and I get caught up in the conversation. I forgot it again. I need to start writing it down, right? I think we've answered most of Dr. Mina's questions. He had a lot of really good ones. But I guess if people are interested, I know Lil had it up on the screen. The 1-800 number, is that what they call if they? Yeah,
call the 800 number, or they can just send me an email.
Okay, what is your email address?
It's bglass.
Okay.
At pavlab.com.
Okay, and that's B as in boy. BGLASS. Okay.
At Pavlab, and that's PAVLAB.
Okay.
.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Pan American. Okay, yes. Gotcha. Okay, good deal. Just in case.
And we have a website now. The Bunny Vac isn't even on the website yet, but if you go to pavlab.com, you kind of see some of the other stuff we do, and there's a link there for a request for information, email, contact, and that comes directly to me, so you can contact me that way also.
Oh, great. Okay.
But just a moment here, and since I've got the phone number on my screen, just let me have the screen for a moment so that it will appear on the recording of this Hangout. The phone number for Pan American Labs is 800-856-9655.
I think I missed 4 or 5 phone calls today. We have a new rabbit barn that's pretty remote, and we have a cell phone booster out there. And so I went out there today, and the booster was off. It was not working for some reason. So I had several phone calls I had to return after I got back into an area where my cell phone worked. So.
It's a hot topic. You've gone viral, I think, in the
You know, and I'm wondering, because I can't find me anywhere. I can't find a discussion about Bunny Vac, so I'm wondering where it is on the, you know, if it's in what Facebook it's on or something like that. I would love to make myself available to answer questions for folks.
Oh, well, it is a lot of folks have been talking on Facebook on a lot of the different rabbit groups, and there's been some interesting discussion.
Mhm.
So definitely, I don't know, I can't remember exactly which ones they were. Lil, do you remember? Or
Well, the American Rabbit Breeders Group.
oh yes,
Yeah.
of ARBA, yeah, had a long discussion on there. Actually, folks were posting from the show. They just wanted to know if anybody had heard of it, and so definitely there's some interest there. And
Is that the ARBA group? Is that like a Yahoo group or a Google group, or is it...
on Facebook, if you Google, excuse me, if you search for groups, I think
Okay.
for everything.
Okay. All right. All right. I can do that. Like I say, I can, you know, I can lurk on there and answer questions if people want them or whatever. So
Right.
there are lots of questions. We recognize that this is a radical departure from where things have been, and what, you know, and this product, if it's good, will sell itself. I'm not out here trying to, you know, hawk it on the street corners, but I just want to make the information available so people can make a decision for themselves.
Well, sure, and we appreciate you doing that, and you know, a lot of us, folks like me, who really I don't have any, you know, I told you I worked at a lab one time, but I did mostly taking care of the critters.
Yeah.
My specialty, but you know, and there's a lot of good folks out there who do know how to take care of their animals, but they might be like me and just don't really understand the medical side, or I just don't have, you know, training that way to understand even some of the basic things. Like I had to go online and look up the difference between the live and the dead
Right.
vaccines, and just so that I had some kind of idea. And so yeah, I think, you know, any kind of education to help us make informed decisions about our herds is wonderful. And the great thing about rabbits is everyone has their own way of doing it. So I don't think.
My son is not relative. He and I both are new to raising rabbits. I mean, I've had rabbits for 30 years, but we never raised rabbits. And man, the last 6 months have been a real education. I mean, if we made a list of what we did right and what we did wrong, the wrong list would be a whole lot longer.
Gotcha.
We fed them too much. We fed them too little, and but I'm very pleased with our breeding program now. We built an entire new facility that's 70 feet by 80 feet. And the ceiling is at the peak is almost 20 feet tall. So it's for us, it's a big rabbit barn.
Yeah.
And we will have about 200 to 250 does in that barn.
Awesome.
Get it full. So.
Wow.
And that's Travis's project. He's the rabbit breeder. So.
Right.
But he's really doing very well with it. We're real pleased with it.
Well, good. Yay. Yeah, it's a good wholesome venture.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good deal. Well, Lil, we're past our hour time slot, but this has just been really interesting for me. I've learned a lot, I think. I didn't know how everybody was doing on time wise. Do we probably need to wrap up, or?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I mean, if there's more questions now, are there other people following this, or?
Well, what we do is we broadcast it, and so it'll be uploaded on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's automatically recorded on YouTube while it's being broadcast.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So this would be a good way, and then you know, to get a little information out there for folks.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
That we have viewers right now, so there's folks listening in now, so that's good too.
Okay, all right. Well, like I say, I'm pretty much available. I mean, the phone rings in the office, and if I'm not here, it rings on my cell phone. So I answer the phone almost 24 hours a day. So if anybody has questions, seriously, just give me a call. That's, you know, if I have an answer, I'll tell you, and if I don't, I'll tell you. So
Good deal. That's all we can ask, right? Well, thank you. I appreciate you spending some time with us, Bob, and telling us a little bit more about your bunny back.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, well, no problem. And thanks a lot to Dr. Mina for sending all these great questions in, because I'm too dumb to figure them out myself. But I appreciate that. It's awesome. So thanks a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast.